A black man adopts a girl no one wanted. 28 years later, she does something behind his back that stuns everyone. Derek was 37 the first time he saw her. It was a gray, overcast afternoon during a community outreach event held on the outskirts of town. Volunteers had gathered at a local foster care picnic, playing games with the kids, passing out sandwiches, snapping pictures for brochures that rarely led to real change. That's when Derek spotted her. A small girl, maybe 8 years old, sat alone at the edge of the field. Her faded pink t-shirt was clearly too large for her tiny frame. Her light brown hair, straight and fine, was pulled into 2 short pigtails. Her skin was pale and her features stood out in the crowd. While other children chased each other across the grass in bursts of laughter, she remained on the sidelines, grinning at no one in particular, tapping a silent rhythm onto her knees. Derek couldn't look away. No one approached her. Some glanced in her direction but quickly looked elsewhere. Till she smiled. Not at anyone. Just up, toward the cloudy sky. He didn't know her name, but something about the light in her eyes and that quiet joy tugged at him. He walked over and sat beside her. "Hey there," he said softly. She looked up. Her wide eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Hi," she answered as if they'd always known each other. "What's your name?" "Laya," she said. "Nice to meet you, Laya. I'm Derek." They sat and talked for about half an hour, about everything and nothing. She loved bubblegum, coloring books, and stories about brave dogs. She showed him a small, worn notebook where she sketched trees. Her favorite shape? A triangle. When someone announced snack time, she sprang to her feet and ran toward the others, waving back at him without hesitation. And then she was gone. But Derek couldn't get her out of his mind. He later asked the orphanage director about her. The woman explained that Laya had been in the system since infancy. She had Down syndrome. Most families lost interest the moment they heard the phrase special needs. They said she was bright but a little slow, affectionate, but sometimes unpredictable. They warned him it wouldn't be easy. It might even break his heart. Derek listened quietly. He nodded. 2 weeks later, he returned with adoption papers in hand. People told him he was out of his mind. "You've never raised a child. You're juggling 2 jobs. She'll need more than love, Derek." But Derek didn't flinch. He had grown up without a father, and he knew what it felt like to be unwanted. Maybe that's why walking away was never an option. Laya came home with Derek on a quiet Sunday morning. She wore that same oversized pink shirt and clutched a single pillow, stitched with little flowers. The car ride was mostly silent, but every time he glanced at her in the rearview mirror, she met his eyes and smiled. His house wasn't much. Just 2 bedrooms, a worn-out couch, and a fridge that hummed louder than the TV. But now it was her home too. He decorated her room with posters of cartoon puppies and stuck glow-in-the-dark stars to the ceiling. He bought a small bookshelf and filled it with used picture books. Every morning before heading to work, he made her oatmeal and laid out her clothes. And every evening before bed, he read to her. Always 1 story, sometimes 2 if she asked, with that hopeful grin. Whenever she struggled, be it with numbers, tying her shoes, or zipping her coat, he'd kneel beside her patiently. Never once did he raise his voice. She called him D, clung to him during storms, asked him to brush her hair before school. When other kids teased her for how she spoke, she'd run into his arms at pickup, blinking back tears. And he'd always bend down, look her in the eyes, and say, "You're one of a kind, baby girl. The world might not be ready for that. But I was." And those words were enough. Slowly, Laya began to believe it too. Some nights, Derek would pass out on the couch, still in his work boots, only to wake up under a small, crooked blanket and find a crayon heart next to his head that read, "I love you, D." He saved everyone. Every note, every birthday card covered in glitter glue, every shaky drawing of the 2 of them holding hands. In his wallet, he carried a photo of her beaming behind a lopsided birthday cake, 2 front teeth missing, icing smeared across her nose. He turned down job promotions for doctor visits, skipped weekend shifts to be in the school gym for her music recital, even though she rarely sang. And when she stood frozen on stage, too nervous to begin, Derek clapped louder than anyone anyway. Their life wasn't polished. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Full of quiet, everyday moments that stitched themselves into something solid. Something that felt a lot like family. By the time Laya turned 12, she could cook scrambled eggs, read short chapter books, and draw entire comic books about a superhero cat who rescued grocery stores from disaster. And when people asked Derek, why her? Why take in a girl no one else wanted? He'd just smile and say, she never needed fixing. She just needed someone to stand beside her. And he meant it. Because deep down he knew the truth. He hadn't adopted Laya just to change her life. She had already started changing his. 28 years had passed. Derek's temples had gone silver. His knees popped every time he stood up, and getting off the couch came with a groan. But his eyes hadn't changed. They still carried the same warmth, the same quiet kindness that made others feel truly seen. He had retired from the sawmill years ago. These days his time was spent tending to his small backyard garden, helping neighbors fix broken fences, and watching reruns of old detective shows. Ones where he already knew the endings but watched anyway. But what he looked forward to most each day was the sound of Laya's voice. She no longer lived with him. A few years back she had moved into a cozy studio apartment across town. It's time I learned to stand on my own, she told him. He'd agreed reluctantly. But she never missed a single Sunday dinner. Never forgot his birthday. Never stopped calling him D. What Derek didn't know was that for the past year, Laya had been quietly working on something. Something big, something she hadn't told anyone about. She had taken a job as an illustrator for a children's book publisher. No spotlight, no big announcements. Just long hours. Mornings, nights, weekends. Pouring herself into her drawings and saving every cent. She cut out all extras. No takeout. No new clothes. Every happy child she sketched in her books reminded her of herself. Of him. Because this wasn't just about saving money. It was about saying thank you. Then one sunny Saturday she called him. Dress up a little today, Dee, she said, her voice bubbling with excitement. I'm picking you up. He laughed. This another one of those gallery things? Nope, she replied. Just trust me. They drove beyond the city, along winding roads lined with tall grass and weathered wooden fences. Birds soared above them and the midday sun bathed the world in gold. Finally they turned onto a gravel driveway. At the end of it stood a beautiful two-story house. White exterior, sky blue shutters, and a wraparound porch with a rocking chair already waiting. Derek blinked. Whose house is this? Laya parked the car, stepped out and walked around to his side. She handed him a small envelope. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside was a deed. His name, printed in bold at the top. I bought this for you, she said softly, eyes already brimming with tears. You gave me everything when I had nothing. Now it's my turn. He stood frozen, speechless. She continued, voice trembling. I saved. Worked 2 jobs. Skipped vacations. I wanted to give you a home that doesn't leak in the winter. Where the stove always works. She reached for his hand. This is yours now, Dee. You gave me a life. I wanted to give you rest. He looked at her, overwhelmed. His throat tightened and his voice cracked. Baby girl, you didn't have to do this. She smiled through her tears. I know. But I wanted to. You never made me feel broken, Dee. Even when the world turned its back, you reminded me I was still worth loving. And I carry that with me, every single day. They stepped inside. The hardwood floors gleamed under the soft afternoon light, warm, golden, inviting. In the living room sat a plush recliner, and resting on it was a stitched pillow that read, Dee's Throne. Above the fireplace, a row of framed childhood drawings stretched across the mantel. Crayon portraits of Derek with his signature crooked grin, rainbow stick figures holding hands, and scrawled messages, "I love you, D." The kitchen smelled like lemon zest and honey. On the table, still steaming, was a plate of his favorite cookies. "You did all this?" he asked, eyes glassy, voice cracking. "Every part of it," she replied with a proud smile. "Even baked those cookies. Don't worry, I actually followed the recipe this time." He laughed, a real full laugh, then pulled her into a hug, pressing his face into her shoulder. "You saved me, Laya," he whispered. "I thought I was rescuing you all those years ago. But I see it now, it was the other way around." She leaned into him, her voice soft. "We rescued each other." That evening they sat out on the porch together, watching the stars rise one by one in the quiet sky. Fireflies flickered across the tall grass like tiny lanterns. Derek rocked gently in his chair, a blanket wrapped around his legs. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "when I brought you home that first day, folks said I was out of my mind." "I remember," Laya replied, smiling. "But just look at us now. You were never a burden, baby girl. Never. You've been the greatest blessing of my life." She reached over, squeezed his hand. "And you were the first person who ever saw me for more than a label. You were my home, before I even knew what home meant." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was thick with years of shared moments, of scraped knees and bedtime stories, of stormy nights and morning hugs, of steady love that asked for nothing in return. Derek leaned back, eyes tracing constellations overhead. "This house, it's beautiful," he said quietly. "You deserve beautiful things," Laya whispered. And for the first time in a long while, Derek didn't feel tired or old. He just felt safe. Of home. He turned toward her, the porch light casting a soft glow on her face. "I'm proud of you, Laya." She smiled, eyes shining. "I'm proud of you too, D." And beneath that wide, open sky, where stars blinked like distant memories, the man who once gave everything to a little girl nobody wanted, finally received everything he never asked for but always deserved.